Good morning. Today's reading is Luke 1:23 and 24. And it came to pass that as soon as the days of his ministration were accomplished, he departed to his own home. And after those days his wife Elizabeth conceived and hid herself 5 months. Zachariah woke early and tried not to disturb Elizabeth. She had been so tired in the week since he returned from Jerusalem. He grabbed the broom and began sweeping petals toward the door. When he looked up, he was startled to see a young woman in the doorway. She smiled an apology and held up her water jar and raised her eyebrows. Zachariah shook his head, and the woman left with the others. No, Elizabeth would not be fetching water this morning. He had done his best to explain. He longed to tell her exactly what the angel had said. He thought to write it out, but she could not read Hebrew. So instead, Zachariah reenacted his encounter with the angel, imitating his own terrifying surprise. Pointing to her tummy, waddling around their house, rocking a loaf of bread in his arms. And after the nausea began, she finally understood. At least, in part. He finished the sweeping. Elizabeth was bowed in her chair, her eyes closed, lips moving. He laid a hand on hers, and she opened her eyes. Seeing the water jar under his arm, she nodded, and he left. Though his feet and ankles always ached, his sore muscles had adapted, and the daily hike to and from the well got a little easier each week. The promised silence had been an unlikely blessing to both of them. There was much that he could not do, but that freed him to serve his weary wife. So God was giving them a son, John. God was gracious. Every time they said his name, waking him, calling him, enduring him, they would declare what God had done, not only for them, but for the entire nation. Gabriel said John would turn many Israelites to God, to prepare them for the long-awaited Messiah. 400 years ago, the prophet Malachi spoke of it. I will send my messenger who will prepare the way, Malachi 3:1. Zachariah shook his head as he walked. Those were some of the last words God spoke through the prophets, and that prophet had spoken of his son, their son. He choked with a silent emotion every time he thought of it. He hoped that someday he could tell Elizabeth the whole story. Divine discipline is difficult. How it is our friend, our guide, and our great mercy is keeping us from future wrong. If Zachariah had emerged from the holy place with full voice and given the other priests and people a wide-eyed account of what had just happened behind the curtain, his truthful account would have sounded outlandish. We are not very different from Zachariah. The writer of Hebrews tells us then that when we endure discipline, God is treating us as sons. For what son is there whom his father does not discipline? Hebrews 12:7. And though the discipline is unpleasant at a time, it is proof that we belong to him. He is our living, intervening Father, and we can believe his every word. Dear Father, thank you for your gracious discipline. Though we have no right to doubt your word, we sometimes do. But you love us so much to let us wallow in unbelief. Give us eyes to see your hidden grace and hearts prepared to praise you when we finally see that even in judgment, there is grace. Amen. Thank you for listening this morning, and have a good day.